The night felt heavier than usual, as though the sky itself had soaked up all the worries in the world and decided to release them in a relentless downpour. Rain battered the windows of Naya's apartment, each strike echoing the anxiety that twisted inside her chest. She paced across the living room floor, still dressed in a cream-colored silk robe, the soft fabric doing nothing to calm the storm brewing in her thoughts. Her phone lay on the coffee table, black screen staring back at her like an accusation. She picked it up again, checked for notifications. Nothing. No message, no missed call, no update from Tariq. It wasn't unusual for him to work late. Being the project manager of a massive construction development meant unpredictable hours, sudden emergencies, and late-night inspections. Usually, Naya handled it with grace. Usually, Tariq would text her before it got too late. On site still. Don't wait up. But tonight was different. He hadn't sent a single word. What made her stomach not even tighter was the small argument they'd had that afternoon. It wasn't dramatic, just a disagreement over finances. Naya had suggested he cut back on luxury buys until their accounts balanced out again. Tariq had snapped, accusing her of not understanding the stress he carried. Then he'd stormed out before they could fix it. Now, hours later, the silence was suffocating. Naya dialed him again. The first call earlier had rung several times before going dead. Now it went straight to voicemail on the first try. She tried to reassure herself. His battery died. His phone's off. He's just busy. But the reassurance never took hold. Something in her spirit screamed that this night wasn't normal. A sudden crack of thunder rattled the windows. Naya walked to the curtain and pulled it aside. The street below was deserted, slick with reflections of streetlights that shimmered across puddles. The world felt cold, too cold for a warm Georgia night. She wrapped her arms around herself. If her mother-in-law had been here, she would have been pacing the house alongside her. Anxiety ran deep in Tariq's family. Naya almost wished she were here. Almost. At exactly 12:30, the shrill ring of the landline shattered the quiet. The phone rarely rang. Naya jumped, her heart immediately racing. She rushed to grab it. "Hello?" she breathed, voice barely steady. "Is this Mrs. Naya, spouse of Mr. Tariq?" "Yes, this is she." What's happened?" "Ma'am, I need you to stay calm. Your husband has been in a serious traffic accident on Interstate 85. He was transported to Atlanta General Medical Center. His condition is critical. He is being taken into emergency surgery right now." The words struck like icy blades. The room tilted. Naya gripped the counter to stay standing. Critical. Emergency surgery. "Tariq, we need you to come immediately. The director of surgery, Dr. Alistair Vaughn, is leading the operation." Naya knew that name. Tariq trusted that man more than anyone. For a moment, it soothed the panic, but only for a moment. I'm coming," she whispered. Then she hung up and stood frozen, unable to breathe. After several seconds, her body finally obeyed her mind. She grabbed her coat, her keys, her wallet, nothing else. Her heart felt like it was sprinting ahead of her as she bolted into the storm outside, desperate for answers, desperate for hope. But she had no idea the nightmare that was waiting for her inside that hospital. But before Naya could even reach the operating room, someone inside that hospital was about to stop her, and nothing about their warning would make sense.
Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping stories like this. Your support keeps these narratives coming. The elevator ride felt endless, so Naya took the stairs instead. 4 flights, each one steeper than the last beneath her trembling legs. When she reached the 4th floor, her breath was ragged from panic and the sprint through the unrelenting rain. The corridor was eerily silent, bathed in sterile white light that made the stillness feel almost unnatural. Her gaze shifted down the hallway until it stopped on the double steel doors marked Operating Room 3. A red indicator light glowed above it. In session. The words might as well have been carved into her bones. Her heart tightened. Tariq was behind those doors, fighting for his life, alone. The thought propelled her forward. She didn't care about protocol, rules, or the red light screaming, "Do not enter." She needed to see him, needed to know he was still breathing. She reached out, hand inches away from the cold metal. Her fingers trembled. She was about to push when a firm hand snatched her wrist. "Don't," she hushed. Naya jolted back, startled. Standing beside her was a young nurse dressed in blue scrubs, her name tag glinting faintly. Ayana. Her face was pale, but her eyes, wide and terrified, held a different kind of urgency, something raw and unfiltered. "You're Mrs. Naya, right?" she whispered quickly, as if afraid someone might hear her. Naya nodded, trying to pull her arm free. "Yes, my husband is inside. I need to see him. They said he was critical." Ayana tightened her hold. "You can't go in there," she said, voice trembling. "You cannot know you're here yet." Naya froze. "What are you talking about? Who are they? My husband needs me." "No," Ayana said sharply, shaking her head. "Listen to me. What's happening in that room is not what you think. This isn't a life-saving operation." The word "setup" hit Naya like ice water. "A trap," Ayana clarified, her voice dropping even lower. "You need to hide, now." Naya blinked in disbelief. Was this nurse delirious? Was she confusing patients? Or was this some twisted prank? But the terror in Ayana's eyes, pure, desperate terror, felt too genuine to dismiss. "Why would anyone set a trap around my husband's surgery? That makes no sense." Ayana leaned closer. "Because he's not critically injured, not from any accident. I saw his real medical file before Dr. Vaughn altered it. None of this is what it appears." The ground felt like it shifted under Naya's feet. Before Naya could question further, Ayana tugged her toward an unmarked wooden door, tucked behind a vending machine. "In here. It's a staff locker room. Nobody uses it at night." "Ayana, I don't understand." "No time," Ayana insisted. "You want to survive? Go inside. Lock the door. No matter what you hear, do not come out until I return." With her mind spinning and instincts screaming, Naya stepped into the dark room. Ayana closed the door quietly behind her. The click of the lock echoed like a warning. Naya was alone, and she had no idea what horror was about to unfold outside that door. 10 minutes later, the operating room doors opened, and what Naya witnessed through the sliver of light would shatter everything she believed about her husband. The darkness inside the locker room felt suffocating, thick enough to choke on. Naya slid down the wall until she sat on the cold tile floor, wrapping her arms around herself. The faint strip of light beneath the door was her only connection to the world outside, a small, trembling reminder that she wasn't buried alive. She replayed Ayana's words again and again. A trap. The surgery isn't real. Tariq isn't critically injured. None of it made sense. Why lie about an accident? Why would Dr. Vaughn, someone Tariq trusted deeply, fake a medical emergency? Every explanation Naya came up with felt impossible. But Ayana's expression hadn't been confused or mistaken. It had been terrified. Terrified enough to shove Naya into hiding like her life depended on it. Naya pressed her ear against the door, straining to hear anything. The hallway was silent except for the distant hum of machinery and the occasional drip from a leaky pipe. Seconds stretched into minutes. Her breathing grew shallow. She checked her phone, 1 a.m. Only 10 minutes had passed and she'd been locked inside, though it felt much longer. She fixed her gaze on the faint line of light. Every flicker of shadow made her muscles tighten. Another few minutes passed. A soft, mechanical sound drifted through the door, almost like a seal releasing. A hiss. Then silence. Naya's breath caught.
She pressed her eye to the tiny crack between the door and the frame, adjusting her position until she could just see the far end of the hallway. The red in-session light above operating room 3 had turned off. The surgery was over. Her heartbeat hammered in her ears. She held her breath as the heavy metal doors slid open. 3 figures stepped out. The first was Dr. Alistair Vaughn, still in his surgical scrubs. His mask hung loosely around his neck and he peeled off his gloves with an odd calmness. Not a single bead of sweat on his forehead. No urgency, no exhaustion. He didn't look like a man who just fought to save a life. The second figure made the air leave Naya's lungs. Tariq. Her husband walked out of the operating room, stretching his neck as though he had just finished a long meeting instead of a life-threatening surgery. He looked perfectly healthy. Not a bruise, not a limp, no sign of injury. Naya clamped a hand over her mouth, stifling the cry that clawed its way up her throat. Her eyes filled with tears, not relief, but shock, betrayal. Then the third person emerged, and she recognized her instantly. Chaunis, Tariq's assistant. The woman Naya had always sensed resentment from, the woman who always stood too close to him at corporate events. Seeing her now in an evening dress under a lab coat, standing next to Tariq like she belonged there, made Naya's stomach twist. Then she heard Tariq speak, calm, confident, far from dying. He said, "The plan went flawlessly." He smiled. Dr. Vaughn nodded proudly. "Everything is in motion." And suddenly, Naya understood. Her husband hadn't been in danger. She was. As Naya listened, she realized the unthinkable. Tariq wasn't just betraying her. He was preparing her death.
Naya pressed both hands against her mouth as Tariq's laughter echoed faintly down the corridor. A cold wave washed over her, so strong she felt her fingertips go numb. She leaned closer to the crack in the door, desperate to see and hear every detail of the nightmare unfolding before her. Tariq stepped forward, accepting a bottle of water from Chaunis as casually as if he'd just stepped out of a boardroom, not an operating theater. He twisted the cap off and took a long drink. "You think she's on her way?" Chaunis asked with a sneer tugging at her lips. "Oh, absolutely," Tariq replied, wiping his mouth. "She's probably crying her soul out right now, imagining me half dead. She'll come running. She always does." Naya dug her nails into her palms, fighting the urge to scream. These weren't words from a stressed man or a man making a poor joke. Tariq sounded delighted, eager. "She'll be vulnerable," Dr. Vaughn said, scanning a chart he carried. "Emotionally unstable. That'll make the next part easier." "Good," Tariq said, voice dripping with bitter satisfaction. "I want her broken before the final step." Final step? Naya's heart dropped to her stomach. Chaunis tossed her hair over her shoulder. "You know, I almost feel bad for her," she said, "but she should have known better. She's too trusting, too naive." Tariq chuckled. "That's why the plan works." He began pacing slowly like a man savoring victory. "When she arrives," Dr. Vaughn explained, "I'll deliver the dramatic update. We'll tell her the surgery was successful, but revealed a dangerous blood abnormality, something requiring an urgent, high-risk procedure first thing in the morning." Chaunis grinned with wicked delight. "And we'll get her signature." Tariq nodded. "Exactly. She signs the consent form thinking she's helping me, and then she takes the fall." Fear choked Naya. It felt like the air was being sucked out of the dark room. Her husband, her partner, hadn't just lied. He had orchestrated a trap, detailed down to the minute. Dr. Vaughn lowered his voice. "We'll make it look like a reaction to anesthesia, complications. It'll be clean, and the insurance payout will hit within weeks." Naya's breath froze mid-inhale.
Insurance. Her mind raced back to the new life insurance paperwork Tariq had insisted she sign weeks ago. He'd called it an investment package. He pushed it with unusual persistence. She'd signed, trusting him. Her vision blurred with rage. Tariq continued, "Once everything clears, we're gone. Switzerland's ready. Tickets booked, accounts prepared." Shanna slid her hand onto his arm. "Our new beginning." Naya's stomach twisted violently. The two of them smiled like lovers whispering about vacation plans, not conspirators plotting a murder. "We just need her signature," Dr. Vaughn repeated. "After that, your wife becomes a tragic statistic." Naya backed away from the door, heart pounding so hard she feared they'd hear it. The truth wrapped around her throat like a tightening rope. Her husband, her partner, wasn't the victim. He was the executioner, and she was the target. But the shock was only the beginning, because someone Naya trusted was about to reappear, and with them, the truth that would change everything.
Naya slid down to the locker room floor, her back hitting the metal lockers with a hollow clang. Her breath trembled out of her, uneven and sharp, as though her lungs had forgotten how to work. Her heart pounded so forcefully she could feel the pulse in her teeth. Tariq, her husband, laughing with his mistress and a corrupt surgeon about her death. She pressed her palms to her ears, trying to shut out the echoes of their cruel voices, but the memory stayed, buzzing like angry bees. She wrapped her arms around her knees and let herself shake. Anger, terror, disbelief, every emotion tangled inside her. Then, footsteps. Naya froze instantly. Her breath hitched as she shifted closer to the door. The shadows under the crack moved, the light shifting. She held her breath. A soft click hit her ears. The doorknob began to turn. Her blood iced over. "They found me?" She backed up instinctively, scrambling on hands and knees without making a sound. Her pulse hammered so loudly she feared it would echo through the locked room. The door creaked open just an inch, spilling light across the floor in a narrow streak. A silhouette slipped in silently. For a split second, Naya's vision blurred with terror until she recognized the figure. "Ayana!" Naya whispered harshly, relief flooding her limbs. The nurse hurried inside and closed the door behind her, locking it again. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, as if she'd sprinted the entire hallway. Did you see everything?" Ayana asked, sinking down beside Naya. Naya nodded, tears spilling freely now. "All of it! The accident, the surgery, the insurance, everything was a lie." Ayana exhaled shakily and rubbed her forehead. "I suspected something was wrong, but hearing them confirm it, it's worse than I imagined." Naya grabbed Ayana's wrist. "Why are you helping me? You're risking your job, your life." Ayana swallowed hard. "Because I've seen things in this hospital that weren't right. Small things at first, charts that didn't match conditions, patients who didn't make it during simple surgeries, all connected to Dr. Vaughn." Naya's breath caught. "He's done this before?" Ayana looked down, guilt shadowing her features. "More than I want to believe. He targets people with large insurance policies, patients he thinks won't fight back. But with you, this is different. You're not elderly. You're not terminal. You're healthy and young. That's why I knew something was wrong." "But Tariq," Naya whispered, "why would my husband plan this?" Ayana closed her eyes for a moment. "I don't know what he's done, but I overheard enough to suspect money trouble. Serious money trouble, the kind desperate men make deadly choices over." Naya's stomach dropped. The debt, the new insurance, the anger whenever she mentioned canceling it. Ayana gripped Naya's shoulders with both hands, forcing her to look up.
Listen to me. You can't panic now. They think you're walking into their trap blindly. That's the only advantage you have. Naya inhaled shakily, trying to steady herself. You're going to act. Pretend to be devastated, pretend to be clueless, pretend to believe everything they say. Don't sign anything, no matter what. And then, Naya whispered. Ayana tightened her jaw with determination. Then we expose all of them. But to expose them, Naya would have to walk straight into the lion's den and face Tariq, pretending to be a dying man.
Nia stared at Ayana, her pulse still erratic, but her mind sharpening with each passing second. The shock had been paralyzing at first, an earthquake ripping through the foundation of her life. But now something new simmered beneath the fear. Resolve. Ayana seemed to sense the shift. She nodded approvingly. Good. You're thinking clearly now. That's the only way you're going to survive this. Nia wiped at her face, smearing tears across her cheeks. They think I'm broken, she whispered, so I'll let them believe it. Ayana squeezed her hand. Exactly. But you have to be careful. One wrong step and they'll know you're on to them. Nia took a steadying breath and stood. Her legs wobbled, but she forced them to hold her weight. Tell me what to do. Ayana reached into her pocket and pulled out a thin visitor's badge. First, you go to the waiting room. That's where Dr. Vaughn expects you to be. He'll want to deliver some dramatic update to keep you emotionally unstable. Nia grimaced. So he can manipulate me. Ayana nodded. Then Tariq will wake up from post-op and request to see you. He needs your trust. He'll probably cry, play the victim, and act like he barely survived. Because he wants me to sign whatever death warrant they've prepared, Nia said bitterly. Ayana lowered her voice. Yes, but you won't sign anything. Not yet. You'll act devastated, confused, and fragile, but not compliant. Delay. Question. Stall. Anything to buy time. Nia stiffened. Time for what? Ayana opened the locker door just enough to peek outside, then shut it again. I'm going to get proof. Real proof. The forged documents, the altered charts, the insurance forms, everything they've hidden. Nia grabbed Ayana's wrist. That's dangerous. Ayana's voice softened. So is staying here without it. Nia's throat tightened. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. Ayana's eyes glistened with something heavier than fear. Something like guilt. I lost someone because of Dr. Vaughn. Someone I cared about. I didn't realize what he was doing until it was too late. She inhaled shakily. I couldn't save them. But I can save you. The words struck Nia like a blow to the chest. Ayana reached for the doorknob again. When you step out there, remember this. You are not powerless. You know the truth. They don't know you know it. Nia exhaled slowly. The trembling in her legs faded. The panic loosened its grip on her chest. For the first time since she'd answered the phone earlier that night, she felt something resembling strength. Let's do this, she whispered. Ayana nodded once and unlocked the door. Walk straight to the waiting room. When Mon approaches, don't look him in the eyes too long. Pretend you're barely holding it together. Nia stepped into the hallway, back into the chilled fluorescent glow, back into the battlefield she hadn't chosen but would now survive. Behind her, Ayana whispered, Nia, remember, trust no one but me. Nia didn't look back. She walked forward, heart pounding, ready to face her husband's lies with a mask of heartbreak. But she didn't expect who would already be waiting for her there. Because sitting in that waiting room was someone Nia had never expected to see again. And their return would complicate everything.
The waiting room was nearly empty, lit by harsh overhead bulbs that gave everything a washed-out, ghostly appearance. Rows of plastic chairs sat in stiff silence, interrupted only by the distant hum of hospital machinery and the low murmur of a late-night news broadcast playing on a small TV mounted in the corner. Nia stepped inside, forcing her breath to tremble. Her robe clung to her damp skin from the rain, her curls frizzing at the edges. She looked every bit the grieving, terrified wife rushing to her husband's side. Exactly the image she needed to project. She scanned the room. A woman slept with her head on a duffel bag. A man stared blankly at his phone. The receptionist typed quietly, barely acknowledging anyone. Then her gaze landed on him. Nia froze mid-step. Sitting in the far corner of the room, elbows on his knees, head lowered, was Marcus. Her older brother. Her brother she hadn't seen in almost 2 years. Her brother who had cut ties after a brutal argument, one that had carved a canyon between them neither had dared cross since. Nia's throat tightened. She blinked hard, thinking her eyes were playing tricks on her. But no, the posture, the broad shoulders, the familiar scar slicing across his left eyebrow from a childhood accident, it was him. Marcus looked up slowly, as though sensing her presence. His eyes widened with the same shock she felt. He stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. "Nia?" His voice cracked with disbelief. She swallowed hard, fighting the instinct to run into his arms. Not now, not here, not with her life hanging in the balance. Still, the sight of him, someone from her old world, her real world, threatened to break the dam holding her emotions together. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. Marcus stepped closer and lowered his voice even further. "Nia, what aren't you telling me?" Her heart lurched. She couldn't involve him. Not yet. Not until she had proof. Marcus was strong, protective, and stubborn. If he knew the truth now, he'd confront Tariq head-on and get himself killed in the process. Before she could answer, the door at the far end of the corridor swung open sharply. Dr. Alistair Vaughn walked out, expression carefully sculpted into grave sympathy. He held a clipboard to his chest, and his gaze swept the room until landing squarely on Nia. "It's time to talk," he said softly. Marcus's hand immediately touched Nia's elbow protectively, and Nia realized with a sinking heart this reunion might be the most dangerous complication yet. Because Dr. Vaughn's next words weren't just meant to manipulate Nia, they were designed to push Marcus out of the way for good.
Dr. Vaughn approached with smooth, practiced steps, the kind that belonged to a man who had spent years perfecting the art of delivering bad news. His expression was carved into a mask of empathy, his brows knitted, his lips pressed together. His voice dipped into an almost fatherly softness. "Nia," he said, stopping just a few feet away, "I'm so sorry you had to wait alone. It's been a difficult procedure." Marcus shifted instantly, placing himself slightly in front of his sister. The stance was subtle but protective. "Who are you?" he asked, tone clipped. Vaughn didn't miss a beat. "Dr. Alistair Vaughn, lead surgeon, and you are—" "Family," Marcus replied firmly. "Go on." Dr. Vaughn gave him a polite, dismissive nod, as if Marcus's presence was an inconvenient footnote rather than a factor in his plan. "Mrs. Nia, can we speak privately?" "No," Marcus snapped before Nia could respond. "You can say whatever you need to say right here." Vaughn folded his hands behind his back. The shift was small but chilling, like a predator adjusting its stance. "Very well," he said with a sigh. "Your husband survived the initial operation. However—" He paused for dramatic effect, eyes flicking to Nia with theatrical heaviness. "We dare complications." Nia forced herself to tremble. She tightened her grip on her robe, stepping slightly forward. What kind of complications?" "While addressing internal bleeding, we discovered an underlying vascular abnormality.
something that puts him at extreme risk. If we don't intervene again by morning, there is a strong chance he won't make it." Marcus's jaw tightened. "What exactly did you discover?" he asked skeptically. Vaughn's eye snapped to him, cold, irritated. "Sir, I understand you're concerned, but medical terminology may be difficult for a layperson to—" "Try me," Marcus interrupted. Nia nearly winced. Marcus's temper was going to get him tangled in this web, and she couldn't let that happen. Vaughn seemed to notice the shift in Nia's posture and adjusted his tone toward sympathy again. "Mrs. Nia, your husband asked for you before sedation. He said you'd understand the urgency." Marcus scoffed. "Funny, he and my sister aren't exactly on pleasant terms lately. Why would he ask for her?" Nia shot Marcus a quick look, a silent plea. "Stop, don't provoke him." Dr. Vaughn stepped closer to Nia, lowering his voice to a gentle whisper meant only for her. "You're his wife. He trusts you. He wants you to make the decision on his behalf." "What decision?" Nia whispered, even though she already knew. "A second high-risk surgery," Vaughn said, eyes glinting. "We'll need your authorization. Sign the consent form and we can begin at dawn." The moment the word sign left his mouth, Marcus stiffened. "Absolutely not. We're not signing anything until we speak to another doctor." Vaughn's expression flickered. Annoyance, then calculation. "That won't be possible," he said coolly. "Time is critical. Any delay could cost your husband his life." Marcus stepped forward, fists clenched. "You're not pressuring my sister into anything." Vaughn lifted his chin. "This is a matter between husband and wife, not extended family." Marcus took one more step, and Vaughn's eyes hardened. This wasn't about medical urgency. This was about removing Marcus from the equation. Nia grabbed Marcus's arm suddenly. "It's okay," she whispered loud enough for Vaughn to hear. Let me talk to him, alone." Marcus turned to her, eyes filled with confusion and fear. "Nia, please," she said, voice cracking, "I just need a minute." Vaughn smiled faintly, triumphant, but he had no idea. Because once Nia followed Vaughn down the hallway, she learned that Tariq was ready, and he had rehearsed every lie he planned to weaponize against her.
Dr. Vaughn guided Nia down a sterile hallway, his footsteps echoing with confident, calculated rhythm. Every few seconds he glanced back at her, as if assessing whether she was breaking down enough to be manipulated. Nia kept her posture small, her shoulders trembling, her breath shallow, an image crafted with deliberate fragility. Inside, however, her mind was razor sharp. At the end of the hall, Vaughn paused in front of a dimly lit recovery room. "He's awake," he murmured, still groggy, but alert enough to talk. "Just be gentle. He's been through a lot." Lie after lie after lie. Nia lowered her gaze and nodded. "Thank you, doctor," she whispered with a shaky voice she barely recognized as her own. Vaughn pushed the door open. The room was quiet, illuminated only by a soft blue monitor light and the faint glow of a bedside lamp. The air smelt faintly of antiseptic and something metallic. And there he was, Tariq. Reclining in a hospital bed, perfectly propped up on pillows. His leg wasn't bandaged, his arms weren't bruised, his breathing was steady, his skin tone vibrant. He didn't look like a man who had narrowly escaped death. He looked like he had just finished a staged photo shoot. The moment he saw Nia in the doorway, his expression transformed right on cue. His features softened. His eyes glistened with crafted vulnerability, and his lips trembled with an actor's precision. "Nia,"
he breathed, voice raspy in all the right places. A performance so precise, it made Nia's stomach churn. Nia stepped forward slowly, letting her hands shake, letting her eyes fill with tears. None of it was acting. Her grief was real. It just wasn't for him. It was for the version of him she had loved, the man she believed he was. Tariq reached out a hand as she approached. "Baby, I didn't think I'd get to see you." His voice cracked, too perfectly. I thought that was it for me." Nia's pulse throbbed in her ears. He was rehearsed, word for word. She placed her fingers in his hand, letting him believe she was falling apart. "They told me it was bad. They said you almost died." He swallowed dramatically. "I did. I could feel myself slipping away. But then Dr. Vaughn, he saved my life. Twice." He shook his head as if overwhelmed. "Nia, he says I need another surgery, a risky one. But I trust him, and I need you to trust him too." There it was. The hook. The moment he would try to reel her into her own execution. Nia bit her lip and lowered her gaze, hiding the cold rage beneath her lashes. "You said I'd have to sign something." "Yes," Tariq said quickly, squeezing her hand. "Baby, it's just a formality. You sign it, they fix me, and I come home. It's that simple." Simple. He had no idea what she now knew. Nia allowed a tremor to enter her voice. I just need a little time." Tariq's fingers tightened around her wrist, too tight to be comforting. The mask slipped her half a second before he caught himself. "You'll sign it," he said softly, dangerously. "You always take care of me." Nia's breath stilled. This wasn't just manipulation. It was a threat wrapped in tenderness. And as Nia prepared to leave the room, she discovered something hidden under Tariq's pillow, something that revealed just how far he was willing to go.
Nia forced herself to breathe slowly as she eased her wrist out of Tariq's grip. The pressure he'd applied still pulsed through her skin, a silent reminder of who he truly was beneath the soft voice and rehearsed sorrow. She managed a trembling nod, keeping her expression fragile. I'll think about it," she whispered, stepping back. Tariq's eyes hardened for a fraction of a second, the warmth flickering like a light bulb exposed by faulty wiring. Then the softness returned. "Of course, baby. Take your time," he said gently, though his jaw twitched with impatience. "But don't wait long. I'm on borrowed time here." Lie. She turned away, pretending to wipe her tears so he wouldn't see her eyes sharpen. As she moved toward the door, her hand brushed against the edge of his pillow. Something crinkled beneath it. Nia froze. A sound so faint, it could have been mistaken for the rustle of sheets, but she knew better. Instinct guided her fingers to the source. She slipped her hand just under the pillow and closed around something thin and smooth. Tariq cleared his throat behind her. "Everything okay?" Her heart hammered. She forced a weak laugh. "Just steadying myself." She kept her back to him as she eased the object from under the pillow, palming it quickly before he could see. Whatever it was, she would look at it later. For now, she slipped it into the deep pocket of her robe. "Come back soon. I need you." The words should have comforted her. They twisted like wire in her stomach instead. Nia nodded and walked out, letting the door close softly behind her. The hallway felt colder now, sharper. Every step seemed to echo with the weight of her discovery. Once she was far enough away, she ducked into a small alcove near a fire extinguisher and pulled the object from her pocket. Her blood chilled.
It was a folded consent form, identical to the one he wanted her to sign. Only this one already had her signature. Her signature. Perfectly replicated. Naya staggered back against the wall, mouth falling open. Tariq hadn't been planning to convince her. He didn't need her permission. He already had a forged copy. Whether she agreed or not, the surgery would proceed. Dr. Vaughn would claim she signed earlier, disoriented, grieving, desperate to save her husband. No one would question it. Naya's throat tightened. Her death was already scheduled. She felt her vision blur from the panic clawing at her chest, but then she remembered Ayanna, her promise to come back with proof, her warning not to panic. Naya inhaled shakily and folded the forged form back into her pocket. Now she had proof too. Proof Tariq never expected her to find. She straightened, heart thundering with fury instead of fear. But just as she stepped out of the alcove, heading to find Ayanna, she froze. Someone stood at the far end of the corridor, watching her. And they were not supposed to be there. The figure approached slowly, someone Naya thought she could trust, until their first words revealed a secret even darker than Tariq's plan.
The figure at the end of the corridor stood unnervingly still, half-shadowed by the dim overhead lights. For a heartbeat, Nia's body locked up, fear rooting her to the spot. She couldn't make out their face at first, just the silhouette, broad-shouldered, motionless. Then the person stepped forward. Nia's breath caught. Marcus! Her brother's expression was tight, his brows drawn low, eyes filled with a mix of worry and suspicion. He walked toward her in long, purposeful strides. Nia, he said quietly but firmly, what's going on? She tried to school her expression, but the storm inside her was too violent. Marcus, you shouldn't be here. He narrowed his eyes. I know when you're lying. His gaze swept over her trembling hands, the way she pressed herself into the corner as though trying to disappear. Did that doctor say something to you? Did Tariq do something? Nia swallowed hard. She had wanted to keep Marcus away from this, for his safety. But his stare was unrelenting, his intuition cutting through her defenses like a blade. Please, she whispered. This is bigger than you know. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. Then tell me. I came here because I was worried about you. Tariq being hurt didn't add up. And now you're walking around like you're hiding from a ghost. What aren't you saying? Nia turned away, terrified that her emotions might betray the truth too quickly. But Marcus wasn't letting her go. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and turned her back to face him. Nia, he said, voice softening, you don't have to protect me. Not anymore. His words hit her harder than she expected. Not since their falling out, over Tariq, ironically, had she heard him speak with that kind of tenderness. And that, more than anything, cracked her resolve. Marcus, they're trying to kill me, she whispered. Who? She sucked in a breath. Tariq, Dr. Vaughn, and someone else, his assistant. They staged everything, the accident, the surgery, all of it. Marcus stared at her, disbelief flickering across his face, but not doubt. Shock, yes. Anger, definitely, but he believed her instantly. Tell me everything. She pulled the forged consent form from her pocket and handed it to him. They already have a fake signature. They planned my death before I even arrived. Marcus unfolded the paper and studied it. His expression darkened like a storm cloud gathering force. That bastard. Marcus, please keep your voice down, Nia hissed. He clenched form in his fist. We're going to the police right now. No,
Nia whispered. "If we leave without proof, they'll destroy everything. And Vaughn controls half the hospital staff. He'll have us escorted out before we reach the exit." Marcus exhaled sharply, torn between fury and caution. "So what's the plan?" Before Nia could answer, a soft click echoed from behind them. Both siblings turned. Ayanna stood at the end of the hall, her eyes wide with urgency and a thick folder clutched in her hands. "I found the files, all of them!" But her face was pale. "And we need to move, now." Because as Ayanna rushed toward them, the alarms began to sound, and Nia realized the hospital staff weren't coming to save her. They were hunting her.
Ayanna rushed toward them, clutching the folder so tightly her knuckles were white. Nia could see the panic etched across her face, the way her chest rose and fell too fast, too unevenly. Something was wrong, more wrong than before. "Ayanna," Nia whispered, stepping forward. "What happened?" The nurse skidded to a stop in front of them, strands of hair falling from her bun. "We don't have time," she gasped. "I copied the files, Vaughn's real notes, the altered charts, the insurance documents, everything. But someone noticed the records room was accessed. They've been alerted." Marcus tensed. "Who's they?" Ayanna's voice dropped to a trembling whisper. "The entire night shift, security, anyone loyal to Vaughn. They're sweeping the floor right now." As if on cue, a sharp beep, beep, beep blared through the hallway. A red light flashed above the surgical wing doors. Nia's stomach dropped. Code red, security breach. Ayanna cursed under her breath. "That's not for a medical emergency. That's for us." Marcus stepped protectively in front of his sister. "Then we need to get out of here, now." Ayanna shook her head vigorously. "No! They've already locked down the main exits, and if they catch us, they'll claim we were tampering with hospital property. They'll make you the criminal, Nia. They've done it before." Nia's hands shook. "What do we do?" Ayanna thrust the folder into Marcus's hands. "First, keep this safe. If they get it back, we're dead." Marcus tucked it immediately under his jacket, jaw set. Ayanna turned to Nia. "Second, you need to look like a panicked wife again. You can't look like you're running. If security sees you sprinting, they'll know." Nia swallowed hard. "Ayanna, how long do we have?" Ayanna glanced over her shoulder, her eyes filling with dread. "Minutes, maybe less." Footsteps thundered faintly from the direction of the stairwell. Marcus clenched his fists. "If they come near my sister—" Ayanna cut him off sharply. "Listen to me. You can't fight them. They'll overpower you, sedate Nia, and claim she had an emotional breakdown. It'll give Vaughn full control." Nia's heart pounded violently. "Where do we go?" Ayanna pointed down a dim side corridor. "There's a maintenance lift at the end of that hall. It's not on the hospital grid, so security can't track it. It leads to the sub-basement." Marcus frowned. "What's in the sub-basement?" Ayanna hesitated. "Mostly storage, old equipment. But there's a service exit down there. It's the only way out." Nia grabbed Ayanna's hand. "Come with us." Ayanna shook her head. "No. If all three of us disappear at once, they'll know we're together. I'll create a diversion. I'll lead them the other way." Nia's eyes widened. "Ayanna, that's too dangerous." "It's the only way," she insisted. Her voice wavered, but her resolve didn't. "Please, go." The footsteps grew louder. Closer. Ayanna turned and sprinted toward the central corridor, shouting loudly, "Hey, over here!" Nia inhaled sharply as she watched the woman disappear around the corner, straight toward danger. Marcus grabbed her arm. "Nia, we move, now." They raced down the dim corridor, every step echoing like a countdown. Behind them, voices shouted orders. Boots pounded the floor. Security was closing in fast,
and Nia realized Ayana had sacrificed herself to give them this chance. But when Nia and Marcus reached the maintenance lift, they weren't alone. And the person blocking their path held a badge, a syringe, and a chilling smile.
Nia and Marcus sprinted down the narrow corridor, the dim emergency lights casting their shadows long and distorted across the walls. The air felt heavier the deeper they went, as if the hospital itself were tightening its grip. They reached the end of the hall, where a dull gray maintenance lift sat tucked behind a partially open utility door. Relief washed over Nia until a figure stepped out from the shadows. A woman. Hospital badge clipped neatly to her coat, a syringe glinting between her fingers, and a smile that never reached her eyes. "Going somewhere?" she asked casually, as if greeting old friends rather than cornering fleeing prey. Nia grabbed Marcus's sleeve instinctively. He immediately shifted his stance, blocking Nia with his body as he scanned the woman from head to toe. "Who are you?" Marcus demanded. She tilted her head, unfazed. "Just part of the night shift." She lifted the syringe, examining it under the light. "Dr. Vaughn sends me. Mrs. Nia, he's very worried about you. Said you're emotionally unstable and refusing care." Nia felt her stomach twist. They were setting up the narrative already. The woman stepped forward. "Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. Come with me. We'll get you calmed down." Marcus growled under his breath. "She's not going anywhere with you." The woman's smile sharpened. "Oh, I'm not asking." She lunged. Marcus grabbed her wrist mid-strike, twisting hard. The syringe clattered to the floor, skidding across the tile. The woman hissed in pain, but didn't back down. She swung with her free hand, nails slicing across Marcus's cheek. He grunted, but didn't budge. Nia pressed herself against the maintenance lift, heart racing. She searched the wall for the call button. There, she slammed her palm against it. "Come on," she whispered desperately at the stubborn doors. "Open, open, please open." The woman drove her knee upward, trying to break Marcus's hold. He blocked her, shoved her back, and pinned her against the wall with sheer strength. "Run, Nia," Marcus barked. But Nia couldn't leave him. Not now. Not when the danger had materialized in such a tangible, immediate form. The woman's hand fumbled for something inside her coat. Another syringe. "Marcus!" Nia screamed as she darted forward. Without thinking, she kicked the woman's wrist. The second syringe flew from her hand, hitting the ground and rolling under a mop bucket. The woman snarled, lunging at Nia this time. Marcus reacted instantly, grabbing the woman by the collar and slamming her back against the wall so hard that the impact echoed. Her head hit the concrete. She went limp. Nia stood frozen, chest heaving. Marcus grabbed her arm and pulled her back toward the lift. The metal doors slid open with a soft ding. "Inside," Marcus ordered. Nia stumbled in, shaking. Marcus stepped in after her and hit the button for the lowest level. As the doors closed, Nia stared at her reflection in the metal. She had almost been injected, sedated, dragged away to her death, and she knew this was only the beginning, because when the lift doors opened into the sub-basement, Nia realized the truth. This hospital held more secrets than she ever imagined, and some were kept in the dark. Literally. The maintenance lift groaned as it descended, rattling like an old machine moments from breaking apart. Nia clung to the rail, her breath uneven, her pulse still racing from the attack upstairs. Marcus stood beside her, chest heaving, one hand pressed against the fresh scratch across his cheek. The wound was shallow, but the sight of blood made Nia's stomach twist. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," Marcus muttered, though the anger burning in his eyes said otherwise. "These people are out of their damn minds."
The elevator shuddered to a stop, the lights flickering once before the doors creaked open. A blast of cold, stale air hit them. The sub-basement was darker than Nia expected. The single row of flickering lights overhead cast long, eerie shadows across the concrete floor. Rusted equipment, old hospital beds, broken wheelchairs, and dusty crates lined the narrow walkway like forgotten relics. "This place looks abandoned," Nia whispered. Marcus stepped out cautiously, "which means no cameras. Smart move, Ayanna." Nia followed him, her footsteps echoing far too loudly. "Where's the service exit?" Marcus scanned the maze of storage. Ayanna said it should be on the far side. "Let's keep moving." They walked deeper into the labyrinth, the cold growing sharper with every step. Nia's eyes darted from shadow to shadow, half expecting another staff member to leap from the darkness with a syringe. But the silence was worse. Oppressive. It felt like the walls were holding their breath. "Marcus," Nia whispered, "something feels wrong." Before he could respond, a faint mechanical whir echoed through the sub-basement, then another, and another, like machines waking from sleep. Marcus grabbed Nia's arm. "Stay close." Lights snapped on in the far corner, revealing a row of metal gurneys, and on them, Nia saw bodies. At least 6, covered in sheets. Her breath hitched violently. "Oh my God!" Marcus's jaw tightened. "Don't look. Keep moving." But Nia couldn't look away. These weren't storage items. These were patients. She recognized the colored tags on their wrists. Patients with complicated surgeries. Patients Dr. Vaughn had mentioned losing. Patients who never should have died. Nia covered her mouth to stifle a sob. "He killed them. He's been doing this for months." Marcus placed a steady hand on her back. "We're taking this to the police. You hear me?" Nia nodded even as dread clawed at her chest. She tore her gaze away from the gurneys and kept moving. They reached the far wall, where a metal door with a faded, "Authorized personnel only" sign stood. Marcus tried the handle. It turned. "This is it. We're almost out." But as he opened the door, the hallway on the other side wasn't dark. It was lit, brightly, and standing at the end of that hallway were 2 figures, Dr. Vaughn and Tariq, both waiting, both smiling, as if they knew exactly where Nia would run. Trapped between the truth and her predators, Nia must make a choice: run, fight, or outsmart the 2 men who had planned her death from the beginning. Tariq and Dr. Vaughn stood at the far end of the corridor, like 2 hunters who had grown tired of playing with their prey. Their smug expressions tightened Nia's chest with fear and fury in equal measure. Vaughn held a clipboard, casually flipping through papers as though this were nothing more than another routine night at the hospital. Tariq leaned one shoulder against the wall, arms crossed, his posture relaxed, comfortable, as if he had always expected her to end up here. "Running, Nia?" Tariq called down the hall, voice echoing off the cold concrete. "That's not like you. You don't run. You fix. You cling. You disappoint me." His smile twisted cruelly. Marcus stepped in front of her, fury radiating from every muscle. "Back away from my sister," he growled. "Now." Dr. Vaughn chuckled softly. "Mr. Marcus, your involvement complicates things. You weren't part of the plan." "Too bad," Marcus shot back. "I'm here now." Tariq pushed off the wall, strolling toward them. "You don't understand, Marcus. She was holding me back. She's been dragging me down for years. This was necessary." Nia felt her throat close. "Necessary?" she whispered.
I loved you. Tariq smirked, and I tolerated you. Marcus lunged, but Nia grabbed his arm, stopping him. Attacking head-on would get him killed. Dr. Vaughn raised the clipboard. Let's resolve this cleanly, Mrs. Nia. We have your signed consent. All we need is for you to come back upstairs so we can finish the procedure. Marcus barked a laugh. You forged that signature. We have proof. Proof, Vaughn echoed with amusement. A few stolen files, please. My staff will testify you were unstable, that you attacked one of our nurses, that you ran when we tried to help you. Nia froze. They already had the narrative in place. Tariq stepped right up to Marcus, eye to eye. Move, he said coldly. This doesn't concern you. Marcus's fists clenched, but Nia tugged him back again. No, they couldn't win this with force. They needed something Vaughn couldn't twist. Then Nia remembered the old security lifts. The sub-basement wasn't on the main grid, but maintenance areas often had internal emergency recorders to monitor equipment. If those were still operational, Nia glanced upward at a dusty black dome in the corner, an old industrial camera, too old to be hospital-issued, too forgotten to have been replaced, but possibly still hooked into the building's backup archive. Her pulse raced. Vaughn noticed her look. Those don't work, he said. He said it too fast. He was lying. Nia stepped forward, shoulders shaking, not in fear this time, but in determination. Tariq, why did you do all this? Why did you choose her over me? The question stalled him. He blinked, thrown off balance, vanity pulling him into honesty. Because you were weak, he spat. And that was all the confession she needed. Nia shouted at the top of her lungs. Check the backup feed. This entire floor has surveillance. Vaughn's face drained. She's bluffing. But Tariq's expression twisted in panic. Marcus moved fast. He shoved Vaughn aside, grabbed Nia's hand, and sprinted down the hall toward a side door Nia had spotted earlier. Shouts erupted behind them. Footsteps thundered, but it was too late. They burst through the service exit into the cold night air just as sirens sounded. Real sirens, not hospital codes. Ayanna had called the authorities. Nia collapsed into the grass, sobbing as police swept past her into the building. Marcus wrapped an arm around her shoulders. It's over, he murmured. Nia wasn't sure if it was, but she was alive. And for the first time that night, she finally felt safe. But 3 days later, as Nia prepared to testify, she received an anonymous message with a chilling 6-word warning. He is not done with you.